Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be going over Necrotic Week 19 that I did this week as destruction. So that's pretty different from what my channel normally has. Most of my videos are based on Affliction. However, in the last month or so, destruction has got a couple changes. They got a 22% increased Chaos Bolt damage and 5% flat damage across the board this week. So I was testing a couple keys out with destruction, and I really like it. I think destruction is pretty viable right now in keys. It's hard to tell if it's better than affliction. There are definitely some dungeons where you still want to play affliction, such as like Theater of Pain. That is like mostly single target. Um, destro really gives you that AoE burst though that you'd want in most dungeons where you're pulling pretty large. So that's kind of why I chose it. My talent setup this dungeon was Flashover, Reverse Entropy, Cataclysm, Roaring Blaze, and Channel Demonfire. However, instead of Roaring Blaze, if you want more AoE damage, you can use Rain of Chaos for extra Inferno procs. You can also use Inferno and spam Rain of Fires if you have the Wilfred's Legendary and try to go for like a 2-minute Inferno with Soul Conduit. Um, so there's a lot of options you can go. You can even go more single target. You can go Dark Soul Instability with Cataclysm and Roaring Blaze if you want to focus more on single target. I don't recommend that specific build, but I think the build I'm using here is fine. And also, if you want to use the Rain of Fire AoE spam build, you can also do that. Um, so I'm going to be putting us through this this run to 2x speed. So kind of talking through my cooldown usage and how I played this key. So here I didn't use any of my cooldowns really. I just used Cataclysm and Channel Demonfire. I think that just in general, opening with that is pretty strong. So as you can see here, Inferno, Cataclysm, Channel Demonfire, and then I'm just spamming Rain of Fires on top. I always Havoc, my main targets. So in this case, it was the Vanguard and the Corpse Harvester. And I can either Chaos Bolt if there's not a lot of other targets, or I can use them for shards and get double Incinerate and Conflags on them to generate more shards to cast Rain of Fires on. So you can see I did a ton of damage to that bull just from using cooldowns. So here, same thing, open with Cataclysm, use Soul Rot, spam my Rain of Fire and channel Demonfires, and that's kind of your core open rotation when you're using these talents is once everything's grouped up, you Cataclysm, channel Demonfire, Rain of Fire, then you can use your Conflag charges with your Havocs. And if there's a big target that needs to die, you can Chaos Bolt them. And if not, then you can just use it for Rain of Fires. So here we're just counting the Pride. Something to note is with the Roaring Blaze build that or the Roaring Blaze talent that I'm using, my single target on Pride is pretty good. In general, I was pretty consistently doing about 4.5 to 5k DPS just from casting my normal rotation, which is a lot better than Affliction when you aren't using like Soul Rot Phantom Singularity. Like if you're just dots and draining, then it seemed to do a lot less. So that is something to know about Pridefuls. Here we had a really big pull. We used the Anima Orbs from the Golem and pulled a ton of trash. So here I'm just kind of AoEing everything down. And since this week is inspiring, I was also just kind of targeting this Corpse Harvester in the back, just because he was constantly draining fluid and like stunning our team and stuff. So just want to make sure he was dead. But Necrotic Wake is an interesting dungeon because you can pull a lot bigger than you normally would in other dungeons because of the types of weapons that there are. And you can pull like crazy amounts with the boss and such. And that kind of reflects on your talent choice too. If you are in a group that you know is going to pull really large and you know every pack is going to be like 8+ targets, Then possibly like the Wilfred's legendary with Rain of Fire build might actually be better because you're going to get so much value from spamming Infernals and spamming Rain of Fires. Um, However, this is like my first time running with this group really, so I didn't know exactly how they pulled. So you can see like in between there's some smaller pulls and some larger pulls, so I just went with the safer talent build and Cataclysm channel Demonfire. That's also just the style I prefer. It feels a lot smoother, decent single target damage, decent AoE damage. When you do build like that Rain of Fire build, you are pretty much full on AoE, and that's kind of it. And I don't like having just I don't like being spec'd for one thing. So kill the Pride. We have a really big pull coming up here. Cataclysm, Rain of Fire, Inferno, Channel Demonfire, and I'm just spamming Rain of Fires. Trying to help our tank kite, and I'm also trying to kill this farm mob. I actually ended up dying here just because I'm not paying attention. I was trying to like CC one of the mobs, I believe. I died of something, I think. Yeah, I just was being greedy and like wasn't paying attention. And I was also trying to get a soul stone on our tank, so I ended up dying there. But the time I got back, the pack was pretty much dead, which is fine. For conduits, I used the one that gives you incinerate and chaos bolt damage when targets are affected by immolate. And I also used combustion engine, which increases the damage of your immolate whenever you can flag. So those are kind of the two talents I would use. I was using Karain, the soulbind in this dungeon. I just kind of wanted to test it, and you get pretty good uptime on it. I think it was around 40% by the end of the dungeon, which is pretty solid. Basically, you just do 10% more damage to targets above 75% health. And so obviously every target you hit is going to be above 75% health, you know, when you start hitting them. But you don't have a 100% uptime technically because multiple mobs will get AoE down. But that was definitely useful on prides, bosses, and the starting burst, and just getting kind of more damage in the openers when you are pulling AoE packs. Nia probably is better just for the extra mastery proc. However, I'll just kind of like testing stuff out since this is kind of like my first time running destruction in higher keys. I've kind of messed around with it in lower keys, kind of when the expansion started, before all the buffs and such. But yeah, I think the safe bet would be to go Nia. I still would use double potency with Nia. Burrs is obviously really, really strong. I just don't know if it's as strong in massive AoE situations since they only attach to one target. So here we get 68.5%, which is pretty much all we need for to go upstairs after this boss, and just kind of viz past that necromancer back. So this boss is pretty rough. Like you definitely want to have either prideful or lust for it. Kind of like no matter what the key level is, because the ads in this fight are just like pretty tough to deal with if you don't CC them correctly. As you can see, we always have the mage CC'd. How the mechanic works is if the mob is CC'd, you don't take AoE damage from the final harvest. So if you can, you definitely want to have mobs CC'd. So Incap from Monk or Demon Hunter, Freezing Trap from Hunters. We had our priest use Shackle Undead. So they would just shackle that one mob, and then we just kind of burn the boss and kill the other ads as is. So just kind of going through, killing the boss, normal single target rotation. So for those who are kind of new to destro, it's a pretty easy spec to play. It's a lot less complex, I guess, when it comes to min-maxing than Affliction is. It's pretty much generate shards using Conflagrate, Incinerate, and your Immolate ticks, and you just spend those shards on Chaos Bolts or Rain of Fires, depending on single target or AoE. I am probably going to do a destruction guide at some point. If people are interested in that, just let me know. So here we have a really big pull. I save my Inferno pretty much always from my find the pulls that I know that are going to be really large, right? I want to get maximum value out of it since I don't have any cooldown reduction for Inferno. It's always going to be a 3-minute cooldown for me in this dungeon, so I wanted to get value out of it. You can see we looked over the mage damage. He was doing like 50k because we ended up spearing that pack. So everything was taking increased damage and also just took like 2 million flat damage. So that was pretty interesting. Necrotic Wake, when you get really good at using the weapons, you can do pretty crazy pulls, kind of like we were doing here. And like even in MDI, you saw them pulling the entire room like this. Here my tank dies to the Stitch Harvester, and we accidentally face pull the backpack there. That was not intended, but we definitely recovered from it, which was good. You can see all the little soldiers kind of jumping around chasing our tank. Yeah, for the harvesters here, they, for friends who don't know yet, they always target someone, and you can actually just hide behind other mobs, and they will always hurt the other mob. So if you see like a giant red arrow above your head, that means you're targeted, and you can just hide behind a mob, and it will chunk them for about 20% or so at these level keys. So just finishing off the mobs here. So yeah, these guys, there's a couple throughout the dungeon, and you can always just use them to kind of take 20% health off of the really big mobs throughout the dungeon. So you can see we're always trying to line up the throat cleavers to hit each other. We actually end up keeping one assistant alive, I believe, after we kill, just to keep having them like hit each other and other mobs. Healer goes down there, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. The mobs are dead, so. So I believe I Infernal this pack. Yep, because I Infernal here because I figured it's pretty much going to be up the time we kill this Abomination and the second Abomination and the Prideful. About 3 minutes will go by, so you definitely want to maximize your cooldowns. Save them for bigger pulls. Don't waste them on like a pack of 3 or 4. Infernal is really strong in big AoE because it does AoE damage. It's not like Dark Glare where it only hits one mob, but it will hit everything because of the immolation aura, right? So you definitely want to save Inferno for the bigger pulls. And when you're in smaller pulls like this, when there's like 3 or 4 mobs, I'm just kind of chaos bolting the biggest target while just keeping immolate on the other targets and just kind of single targeting like you would with Affliction. So we finish off this Abomination here, and then we're going to get ready for a Pride. We're going to take the Pride right into the boss. So Prides die pretty quickly, I noticed, when I was playing Destruction. Sometimes when I'm playing Affliction, they take a while to kill, like I said, because if you're not using your cooldowns, kind of takes a little bit. But Destruction, just doing your normal rotation, just kind of does a lot of damage to them in general. So here I'm just kind of pulling shards, getting ready. Cataclysm, I'm ready to burn the boss, and we actually just destroy this boss. I'm pretty sure he dies in like 40-ish seconds or so, I think. So yeah, he died in 44 seconds there with just Pride, and we ended up spearing him, I believe, too. So he took extra damage. We saved Lust for the last boss because if you do end up using Lust and Pride and all your cooldowns on that previous boss, then you don't really have anything for the last boss. And this boss can be pretty tough because you're technically on a timer. Um, as you can see, like the mage just did so much because the weapons can always crit with combust. But you definitely want to have cooldowns going to this boss, so that's why we're kind of waiting here, right? We have so much time left on the timer. We almost two chested this actually, you know. If we kind of pulled a little bit cleaner and faster earlier, we might have been able to. But we have 8 minutes left, so here we're just waiting for cooldowns. We waited for PI, we waited for combust, and we waited for our hunter cooldowns. I said I will just use my cooldowns, you know, whenever it comes up, so we don't have to wait for them. It's fine. So yeah, so here we kind of got the boss to 60% or so before he even casted the Dark Exile on anyone. You can actually cheese the Dark Exile, which sucks you down if you have an immunity. So here our hunter tried it, but it didn't actually work. I think you have to like turtle and feign to do it. Mages can ice block. I think pallies can bubble, but unfortunately as a warlock we cannot. So we're just kind of stuck going down, unfortunately. So here I got maximum use out of my Inferno. On this boss specifically, you want to save your cooldowns until either you come up from this phase or you want to get it done before this timer even comes up for this phase. And that being, so like you don't cast your cooldowns and then 10 seconds later you get sucked in to go down and then you just completely waste your Infernal. You definitely want to either hold your cooldowns or use them beforehand. So here, Hunter died, so I rezzed them. And that was the key. So pretty clean 19 run. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments basically on what you'd like to see in the future, let me know. This is my first time kind of playing Destruction seriously this expansion. But I'm gonna probably play it a little bit more. Not in Raid. Raid is still pretty much Affliction only. But when it comes to Mythic Plus, Destruction is definitely viable now. We'll have to see how it does on Tyrannical Weeks. I'll do some testing on that. But for Fortified Weeks, when you're doing massive pulls, I really think Destruction is pretty good right now. So yeah, give it a try if you haven't. Hopefully this is helpful. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.